Okay. And believe we are ready. So we're now live streaming on YouTube. Gotta mute that so I'm not distracted. And let me pin this and we'll get going. So remember, everybody, you're always welcome to log in here to the Zoom, or you can just log on to YouTube and watch live, and then you can chat there and ask questions as we go. And then it will also be recorded, and I may or may not see the questions if you are watching this later, but I will try. Okay. So today we are getting into distress tolerance, and I do not have my intern with me today, so it will be a bunch of me talking to myself. So not sure how long. We'll still be able to get in a full hour or 50 minutes. All right. Distress tolerance. We're on page 325 of your handy dandy notebook. And remember that distress tolerance is for the top of the mountain. So also remember that the mountain valley metaphor is just something that we made up. So I'm going to do it again. So remember, as your emotions are going up in this thermometer and you're getting hotter and hotter with you're a little bit concerned, and then you're scared, and then you're terrified, or you're a little bit annoyed, and then you're mad, and then you're enraged. As your thermometer gets higher and higher, you're going up and up and up the mountain. And then we have the valley down here, but distress tolerance skills are really mainly for the mountain. So there is this point, and they do talk about this in the book, of your skills breakdown point. And so we imagine that as the snow cap of the mountain. And it's called your skills breakdown. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is your biology, your sympathetic nervous system, your parasympathetic nervous system, and how we can kind of hack the system. So everything that we're going to be talking about today is for the top of the mountain. This is where your distress tolerance skills come in. You're only supposed to use your distress tolerance skills when you're at the top of the mountain, because if you use them at all the time, then they just they become less powerful and they don't solve problems. So distress tolerance skills are just to get you, when you're freaking out, to calm down long enough for the emotion to kind of pass. And all emotions do pass naturally. Sometimes it feels like you're having a panic attack for 24 hours, but that is physiologically impossible. Maybe you're having one every 2 minutes and you're coming down and going back up and up and down and up and down, but you're not having one for 24 hours. And you can't just be like fear, sadness, anger. It goes up and it does come down. It doesn't feel like it will come down. It does come down. And so distress tolerance is to get you to not do anything that you regret doing while you're on top of the mountain. Remember too that the top of the mountain is just the wise mind Venn diagram, emotion mind, wise mind, logical mind. So this is when we're way, way, way over in emotion mind, is when you want distress tolerance skills. So your first skill, I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, is your stop skill. So when we're in a live group, I give everybody a red piece of paper and have them cut out a hexagon. The amount of stress that some people endure trying to cut a straight hexagon is intense. it would be helpful if you're working along with us if you get a red piece of paper and cut out a red hexagon, because the act of cutting it out will be memorable. And then you write stop on it, like a stop sign. And like all of her beloved acronyms, the first, it's a little bit weird, but the S is for stop. So on the stop skill, you scream in your head, stop, stop. And you think, okay, S, stop. And then you take a step back, stop, back up. You observe, and then you proceed mindfully. So the stop skill just helps you from running headlong into unhealthy coping mechanisms. So in DBT, every problem behavior, so we talk anything that you're doing that's a hot mess behavior, smoking, drinking, yelling, throwing dishes, binging, purging, self-harming, spending too much money on Amazon, running out of a room when your boss looks at you with a smirk. Like anything that you're doing that you regret doing that's not making your life better is what we call a problem behavior. And problem behaviors are just, I don't even know if you want to call them unhealthy. They're not effective. They're not efficient. They're not effective in the long run to manage your emotions, but they're ways that you have found to manage your emotions. They work. So what's happening is you're in the middle of a meeting and you're having these thoughts of, oh my God, my boss hates me. Oh my goodness, like I'm going to get fired. Oh my goodness, like I didn't finish the project on time. Or you are talking to your spouse and he's getting irritated because you didn't take out the dishes or you didn't load the dishwasher the way he would have loaded the dishwasher. And you're like, oh God, this is just like when my dad used to get mad. Like you're starting to freak out. As you go up the mountain, it's important for you to know what your own physiological kind of symptoms are, but probably your heart is starting to race. Your breathing is starting to get faster. And so you're getting more oxygen built up in your body. You're hyperventilating. Your pulse is going up. You're starting to sweat. You get clammy. That's because your sympathetic nervous system is being activated. This is ran by adrenaline or cortisol. Adrenaline. There we go. Because, if you think about human history, that's us, 2021. That's like Neanderthals. Like we were the same for a really long time. Like we were in caves. We were on the savannah. We were hunters and gatherers. We were the same for a really, really long time in human history. Oh, have I told y'all I've been hauling walnuts? That's why my fingers are so stained brown. So we've been the same for a really long time, and our bodies are prepared to seek out danger, to rest with our tribe, to be on the lookout for saber-toothed tigers. Like we're good at that biologically, physiologically. But now the saber-toothed tiger is your mean boss. And your mean boss is not going to kill you. Like we are having the same, let me go back over and make sure that nobody is asking questions. There we go. We're having the same kind of physiological response to our cranky boss as we are to the saber-tooth tiger. That is not helpful anymore. It was really helpful to get that disturbed and dysregulated when there was a lion on the savannah that we needed to protect ourselves from. Like you need your heart rate to increase. You need a lot of oxygen in you. You need to have tunnel vision. You need to be like super oriented onto the threat, and you need your body to amp up in preparation for survival. Now, rarely is that the case. Like hopefully in your life, you will have, I don't know, 5 as a healthy adult in a safe family environment. You know, maybe a dozen times in your life where you're actually in life or death, like when you have to swerve to miss stopped cars on the freeway, when you have to jump and save your kid from walking into a pond. Like, there should be a very limited amount of time where you actually need that kind of intense life or death response, because we're just safe. We're safe from death in most circumstances, unless you're a soldier or a cop or in a really scary world, which I hope that you're not. But we don't need that anymore. So all humans kind of have this alarm system in their bodies that worked really well when we were on the savannah, and there were actual, like, you might die if you don't see the saber-toothed tiger in the woods. We're already primed to, like, kind of overreact and get overstimulated with my boss is angry or my bank account is overdrawn. Like, we'll get that same, I get it. Like, if I bounce a check, like, you get that same kind of panicked sympathetic nervous system response. But your bank account overdrawing is not immediate life and death. You don't need to have. So what is now a panic attack used to just be getting ready to run away from the tiger. That's fantastic. But now you're having panic attacks. So that's all human beings. Like, that's just human nature. Our bodies have not caught up in an evolutionarily based way to modern life. All that being said, there's a whole other level of complexity for people who are traumatized as children, or even people who have experienced trauma as adults. If you have been in a tornado, when the wind blows and when the storm clouds come 2 months later, 6 months, 5 years later, you might have the same reaction that you had when the tornado hit. Because again, our bodies and our brains are doing a good job of, like, hey, that nearly killed you. Let's prepare ahead of time for this thing that is similar. If it were actually a tornado every time, that would be helpful. Unfortunately, that's what PTSD is. And PTSD is having that sympathetic nervous system response when things that remind us of the scary, deathly thing that happened as kids or as adults as a trauma. So now watching The Wizard of Oz is going to bring up that same life and death response as the actual tornado. And now just talking about it brings up that heart racing. And now just thinking about it brings up that heart racing. And so you get this creep kind of effect where things that are totally not dangerous, totally unrelated, bring up that same response, because your brain is like, oh, that's really close. Like, I'm just going to smush them all together. And now if I see anything related to the thing that was scary, I will now also be scared of it. That causes a lot of problems in day-to-day living. It's not helpful. It doesn't keep you safe. It really can wreak havoc on your life. So DBT is for highly sensitive people that are having all these unhealthy coping skills. It's really complex and chronic PTSD. I mean, I believe eventually it will be moved over into that realm of the DSM. I've literally never met a single patient that doesn't have some form of an unhelpful trauma response. So your emotions get triggered really quickly. They go up really high. They go up really fast. They last a long time. And the triggers likely are not life and death anymore, even though they may have been at one time. So if you're in a tornado, then it's storms that are going to get you up on the mountain. if you were abused as a child. I'm going to try to talk really lightly and carefully around this stuff because I don't want me actually talking about this stuff to be the trigger that gets you dysregulated in the first place right now. But if you were in a childhood home where your dad yelled, if your husband is a little bit cranky about the dishes and just kind of like puts one down loudly, you're going to have that same like, oh my God, trauma response, trigger, sympathetic nervous system response, go up on the mountain like you did back then. Because as a child, things are life and death. Things are that extreme. Because if your dad throws the dish, you know, like they could hurt you, they could neglect you, they could really, like, it is life and death at that point. So you have the same response with your partner when it reminds you vaguely of your childhood. Good question. So what if you dissociate when you're at the top of the mountain and forget the distress tolerance skills? So at the top of the mountain, your brain stops working, right? Because you don't need your brain at the top of the mountain. You need to act on your urges, act on your emotions, run away from the scary thing. You don't need to be asking the tiger about where it likes to take naps. You don't need to be remembering somebody's birthday. You don't need to be thinking about the philosophy of life. You just need to act. So as you go up and up the mountain, your brain shuts down, right? So if this is your brain, like this is your eyeball, it's your nose, it's your face. So this part of your brain, and everybody now, like picture like you're feeling if you have a fever. This part of your brain is your prefrontal cortex. This is where logic happens. Your brains, all mammals' brains develop from the bottom to the top and from the back to the front. So this is your brain stem. This is what your lizard brain is called. This is where your heart rate, your respirations, survival stuff is. And then as you move forward, this is like what birds have kind of. And then as you move forward, this is what, I don't know, beavers have, and then monkeys, and then humans have this part at the very front. So it's like this brainstem, animals, humans. Just your little fingertips are what humans have that other animals don't. And this allows us to think into the future. This allows us to think into the past. This allows us to add and subtract and build beautiful architecture and write books. It also allows us to worry and ruminate and think about the past. But your prefrontal cortex is where your logic brain is. Inside is your amygdala, which is your fear and emotional response. And so as you get freaked out, you flip your lid. So this is a thing that you can teach yourself or kids. You flip your lid and your logical brain goes offline. Like you don't need it. You just need to survive, theoretically. It's true if there actually is a tornado. It's true if there actually is a tiger. It's true if there actually is an abusive parent. But unfortunately, you're flipping your lid all the time because you're just being reminded of things that were dangerous at one point. A rope on the ground looks like, reminds you of a snake, and then you flip your lid. The rope is not actually dangerous. You don't need to flip your lid. You don't need to go back into your brainstem to survive, but that just happens automatically. So people who have PTSD have this way overly sensitive alarm system, like a car. And so a car's alarm system is supposed to go off if somebody is breaking into it, not if a raindrop falls on it, or if a feather drops on it, or if a leaf drops on it. So your alarm system is just going off all the time. Whew, that is really bad on your body. Like I said, that's supposed to be okay. Let me know if you can't hear me. Okay, tell me if you can't hear me. So that system is supposed to be reserved for very rare circumstances. with PTSD is going off all the time. So, and I'm giving a very long answer to your question about dissociation. So when you go up a mountain, this part of your brain shuts off, you flip your lid, you go into your brain stem, and you're just in survival mode. So that's why. So this is fight, flight, freeze, fawn. We used to just think it was fight or flight, but now freezing and fawning are kind of being added to that. I'm going to clear this so we have a better picture too. Okay. So you're going to the top of the mountain. Your brain is shutting down to your most primitive survival modes. Your heart rate is increasing. Your oxygen is increasing. You're sweating. It also, so if we've got a picture of your body here, a really cute little gingerbread man, your heart's going up, your blood is being directed to your large muscle groups. You stop salivating. So you get dry mouth, right? You're unable to think. You get tunnel vision. That's tunnel vision. You stop digesting your food because you're about to be eaten by a lion. You don't need to spend your resources digesting your last meal. So you don't digest your food. You don't have saliva. Your heart is racing. Your hands are clammy. You're sweaty. You feel like you're going to pass out. You can't think straight. This is what it feels like to be on top of the mountain. This is your sympathetic nervous system doing a great job preparing you to fight or flee. You want to run away first, and if you can't run and you're trapped, you want to fight. If you can't fight and you're trapped, then you freeze. And if you can't freeze, then you try to like get in good kind of with the aggressor. You try to make friends with the lion. Bonding. So the answer to your question is, what happens when you get way up here? You're dissociated and you can't remember your skills. There are a lot of answers to that. Mainly, keep reminders of your skills and catch it before you get to that point. So when you start to notice your heart racing, or you start to notice your hyperventilating, or you start to notice, like, this is why it's so important to memorize those vocabulary words of, ooh, I'm a little bit concerned right now. Oh my goodness, I'm really scared. That's when you start using skills, when you're very beginning to get into the snow cap. If you wait until you're purely terrified, then your brain's not going to work very well. And it's going to be more of a struggle to remember, like, oh my goodness, what should I do in the first place? So the stop skill helps you to be like, whoo, wait, stop, take a step back, observe. Do I need to use the stress tolerance skills? Do I need to just get out of here for a second? Do I need to go on a walk? Do I need to take a break? And hopefully that will be enough to like notice it and get out of it before you get up into the snow cap. This is when people use a lot of the unhealthy coping mechanisms, right? So if you're in the snow cap before you have any skills whatsoever, this is when you would do self-harm. This is when you would go get a drink of alcohol. This is when you would run out of the meeting crying. This is when you would go spend $1,000 on lipstick. These things that you're doing manage that emotion, and they manage it really quick, and they bring you off of the mountain. So I like to just remind people and validate them that the stuff that you have figured out to do, not a great idea, because it has all these long-term negative effects. Shame, guilt. Now you spent all your money. Now your rent is going to be late, and now it's going to have this whole other mountain cycle that is going to be coming up because, oh God, now you can't pay for your rent, and now you're freaking out about that, and now you're back up on the mountain. But those unhealthy coping mechanisms do serve a purpose of regulating your emotions. You're doing these hot mess behaviors to calm yourself down. Thankfully, all of the distress tolerance skills will replace those hot mess behaviors of impulsive, whatever impulsive things you're doing it to regulate your emotions. So if you notice, like, oh, I'm having an emotion, oh, I'm going up the mountain, oh, I'm probably about to go lose my sobriety or spend all my money or binge or whatever, let me do something. And so doing it quickly when you first notice it is one way to manage that dissociation. And it's hard because you can go up to the top of the mountain really quickly. But that's one way to do it. Other ways are to just keep reminders around you 24/7. So let me get into another skill. This is on page 329. One of the first and most effective skills of distress tolerance is the tip skill. So this is temperature. Temperature, intense exercise, paced breathing, and paired muscle relaxation. The fastest one, the most easy, fast go-to is temperature. If you're freaking out, stick your head in ice water. This activates the mammalian dive response. So remember, we're cave people, and let me stop this so that I can make sure that people aren't chatting. Okay. Our bodies have this system inside of us that if we fall, especially head first, into really cold water, the mammalian dive response kicks in, our parasympathetic nervous system kicks in. Look how dark my thumbs are. And bam, slows your heart rate down, activates your vagal nerve, which we'll get into a second. So there's a ton of polyvagal stuff that is brand new that is really, really helpful. And so Marcia figured this out 20 years before the polyvagal stuff was researched and developed and published. But the temperature part of temp is activating the parasympathetic nervous system. So you've got the sympathetic nervous system, and I just saw this on TikTok. Great resource. Lindy, I think her name is Lindy English, maybe. She's real good, and she's an artist, and she makes these boxes to send to people that have all this stuff in it. So highly recommend. But she was given this explanation using this kind of imagery. So your sympathetic nervous system is flashing on all the time. Your parasympathetic nervous system is also called your rest and digest. So you got your fight or flight system, and then you got your rest and digest system. So the parasympathetic nervous system is like the brake pedal. Sympathetic, gas pedal, ooh, get out of here, adrenaline, cortisol, oxygen, blood, pumping, tunnel vision, save your life. Parasympathetic nervous system is, okay, we've made it back to the cave. We can eat now, we can rest, you can have sex, you can be friends. So fornicate, food, and friends, maybe. There's 3 F's too that some people use for that. But it is the system of warm and cozy, socialization, bonding. You've made it back to the cave. Now it's time to just chill and socialize and bond and warm fuzzies. Oxytocin is the hormone that kind of gets that one going. And it is ran by your vagus nerve. So back to the mammalian dive response. When you put an ice pack on, especially your face, right here, when you like dive into a cold pond or river, lake, or whatever, your body is like, oh shit, like, oh, sorry. Oh goodness, we're going to have hypothermia or drown or whatever if we don't decrease the We need to slow our heart rate down. We need to not breathe as much. We need to like survive being in really cold water. That's exactly what we need to do to combat all these symptoms of the panic attack, all these symptoms of the sympathetic nervous system. So if you, especially, so ideally, you would get a bowl of ice water, put it below, like if you're sitting in a chair, put it lower than your heart. If you're standing up, like bend over, get your head and your heart down, shove your face in ice water. Turns off a panic attack. Please see this giant asterisk of be careful if you have heart conditions doing this. Talk with your doctor first. You don't want to be messing around with your heart if you have heart conditions and turning it on and off. Like that can be a big deal. But otherwise, for healthy hearted individuals, stick your face in ice water below the level of your heart. It will activate the mammalian dive response. I have a PowerPoint somewhere that has this, but you can also Google mammalian dive response and it will teach you all about it more than I am. Obviously, that's not super practical. If you're at home by yourself, near your freezer, you can do that. But if you're at the meeting at work, just excuse yourself, go to the bathroom, put cold water on your face, splash in your face with cold water, put it on your wrists, put it on, carry ice packs. I have people break open like the ones that aren't cold and then you smash them and they get cold. Carry those with you everywhere. Put them in your purse, put them in your car, put them in your desk at work. Have ice on hand at all times. Bend over and put your face on ice. That will get you out of a panic attack. Maybe that won't be enough in itself. Maybe that won't be fast enough for you. So you can use that in addition to all these other skills. So the temperature and the tip skill is ice, especially right here. If you're having a panic attack at the grocery store, go shove your face deep into the back of a cooler, pretending like you're looking for some special ice cream. Grab a bag of frozen peas and shove it on your face. Put it on the back of your neck, put it on your wrists, anywhere that the blood is helpful. But again, your cheekbones are the most helpful. So when that happens, it decreases your heart rate. It activates the parasympathetic oops. Where's my eraser? B. Parasympathetic nervous system. There are other ways to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So the rest of tip, intense exercise. Remember, when you're in this fight or flight response, you want to fight and you want to run. And so if you do 100 jumping jacks really quickly, if you run around the house 12 times, if you drop and do 1 push-up for me, doing really intense exercise, bam, hurry, quick, get it out. That will tell your body like, "Whoo, I just ran away from the tiger." And remember, like, if you're actually in danger, don't do this stuff. You need your sympathetic nervous system to get you out of danger. But if you're just watching The Wizard of Oz and having a panic attack because it reminds you of the tornado, do 100 jumping jacks. There apparently, I've not seen it, but on Orange is the New Black, there is a situation where one of the prisoners is having a panic attack and the guard has her do jumping jacks. It works. Paced breathing, very important. Breathe in through your nose and then breathe out through your mouth. Breathe in through your nose like you're smelling the cake. Out through your mouth like you're blowing out the candle. This actually decreases the amount of oxygen in you, which is what you want. Having like a really high level of oxygen in you can keep that system going because it's like, oh, if I have a lot of oxygen, I must be breathing fast. I must be in danger. I must be ready to run. I must be ready to fight. Then I must be freaking out. Like that's what a panic attack is. So breathe in through your nose. I have my kids do it with their thumb and blow on your thumb. Your thumb doesn't have anything to do with it, but it's a good reminder, and it's a visual and physical reminder, and you can feel blowing on your thumb. And you need to blow out more slowly than you breathe in. So ideally, hold the ice on your face, breathe in, breathe out, slow. You can also do square breathing is helpful here. So intense exercise, jumping jacks, pace breathing, doing your square breathing. That's where you breathe in for a certain amount of time, breathe out, or breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, breathe out for 4, hold it for 4. You can also Google, YouTube, square breathing. There's some good videos on it. Again, like we're targeting each one of these systems that has been activated when you're having the panic attack to kind of go in and hack the system and deactivate them. So when your breathing is up, make your breathing go down. When your heart rate is up, make your heart rate go down. So again, this is polyvagal. Try to write that legibly. Polyvagal stuff. So like I said, you're not able to salivate when you're having a panic attack. You get dry mouth. So sour candy or just eating in general, another reason why we eat to calm ourselves down. If you're eating, you must be back in the cave. You must be in that rest and digest phase. Your parasympathetic nervous system is like, oh, we're eating, so we must be safe. You wouldn't eat if there was a tiger there. If you're eating, you're okay. Why we comfort eat. Eating calms us down, but very specifically, sour candy that makes your saliva, I can't think of the word, whatever, you spit, activate, is a good idea. So keep a break in case of emergency box for your panic attacks. Have sour Skittles in there. Have a break open ice pack in there. What else would you want? Have like something that's warm and fuzzy and cozy. If you can get that oxytocin to come on and feel, so this is why people rock, like holding yourself, patting yourself, rocking is all ways to activate that polyvagal response and bring your parasympathetic nervous system online. Push the brake pedals so that your gas pedals aren't bringing you to the top of the mountain. So temperature, ice, intense exercise, jumping jacks, pace breathing, and through your nose, out through your mouth. The last one is paired muscle relaxation. Again, this goes back to the fight or flight response. If you tense up all of your muscles really tight and then release them, we do that now. Tense up everything, even your face, all squished up tight, and then release. You get that little wave of like whoosh. Your body thinks that you just punched the tiger in the face. You just fought. And after you tense and then release a muscle, it's more relaxed than it was in the beginning. So that's the tips go. We still have about 10 minutes left. Let me think. There's a paced breathing app that's really good. You can set the amount of time for it to go in and pause and go out, and you want your out breath to be longer, and you can set the time. And so it's a nice thing. It has a tone where it beeps, and you just follow it. You follow the visualization. You go in and out. The apps are a good thing. So remember, all of these things are used, excuse me, to just don't make it worse. That's the motto of distress tolerance. Just don't make it worse. Just hold on. Don't self-harm. Don't spend all your money. Don't break up with your boyfriend if it's a good relationship. Don't do anything impulsive. Do these other things. It will calm you down. It's not as easy and fast and efficient and pleasant as those unhealthy coping skills. It's really uncomfortable to shove your head in ice water, and you won't over. I think my battery must be dying on this. I hope y'all can hear me. Okay, so that is the skill. Let me see if there are any chats so far that need to be answered. Okay. So you forget the distress tolerant skills. Keep them on you at all times. Get a freaking tattoo of it. I don't know like how to get yourself to remember it, but noticing as you're going up the mountain, having everything ready and accessible, having like a folder on your phone of all this stuff, the app. So the DBT diary card apps, a lot of them have these skills in them. So just go to distress tolerant skills and read through and just pick one. Have your book available at all times. So another thing that, let me go back. There are a couple more things I want to add to this. Another thing that is helpful is, so remember with your brain, when you're having a panic attack, this part shuts down and you just go into your or working on animalistic instincts. So if you intentionally force this part to come back online, that will also be like, let me get out of here and think, what is 100 minus 7? Minus 7, minus 7. What is world spelled backwards? Right? So spelling things backwards, spell backwards, subtract by sevens, name objects. So look above you and name 3 things, look at midline and name 3 things, look below you and name 3 things, look around you and find everything that's colored orange, or find whatever color and name it. So all that stuff is very like, of course you could do that easily when your brain is working. It is shockingly difficult to do when you're having a panic attack and you're going to be like, screw that, I don't want to do that. Blah, blah, blah. It will calm you down. Forcing yourself to think like, how do I spell purple backwards? Ugh. And it like, you literally can feel your brain like ratcheting back online to think of letters. Think like, what is that thing on the wall called? It's called a clock. How do I spell it? Like just really forcing that prefrontal cortex to come back online. Let me think of other things. Chewing gum, sour candies, just having warm water in your mouth can activate that. I still can't think of the word. It doesn't matter. Get the saliva back in your mouth. Breathing into a brown paper bag and putting your head below your knees. Like if you've seen like movies of kind of cliche, somebody having a panic attack, they have them blow into a brown paper bag. That activates the paced breathing. It does work. You can also freeze oranges. So again, like if you're in school or if you're at work or if you're somehow don't want other people to know that you're trying to calm down from a panic attack, holding a frozen orange can look less obvious. Looking at pictures of babies or pets can kind of bring on that parasympathetic nervous system. Petting a pet releases that oxytocin. Getting a hug releases that oxytocin. So here's another one that's kind of a weird one. Look at something close. Now look at something behind it far away. Close, far, close, far, close, far. When you focus your eyes from close to far over and over again, it's a bizarre thing, but your muscles are tightening and loosening back in there. And that is pushing on that vagus nerve and kind of massaging it and activating the parasympathetic nervous system. Taking a bowel movement activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So go into the bathroom and pushing in that kind of way will lower your heart rate. Okay. So that is all of the polyvagal tip, stop, skills. The polyvagal stuff is not in the book, except Tipp is what that is. Stephen Porges, Porges, is the guy that has brought that into public awareness now. Brilliant stuff. I think I don't have it right here, but there's whole books on it. Brilliant stuff. You can look into it more if you want more ideas. I think that's basically the quickest and the fastest ones, though. Okay, so next time we will get into the distraction options for distress tolerance. So ways that you can just kind of get yourself to get out of that panicked, angry, furious, distraught, despairing. So I mean, it can be sad, it can be scared, it can be angry, it could even be kind of joy and you're like too manically kind of happy. Just ways to get out of the situation until your emotion will calm down on its own. So next time we'll go over the accepts and the improve skills. Anybody have any questions? Those of you that are live, any questions on distress tolerance? And so, especially with the distract skills, if you use them all the time, you're just avoiding your life. They don't solve anything. Like sticking your head in ice water every time your boss gives you a dirty look is not going to solve your boss giving you dirty looks. When you get down off the mountain, then you're going to need to use your emotion regulation skills, your mindfulness skills, your interpersonal effectiveness skills to be like, hey, dude, like, why are you giving me this look? Maybe he has gas, or maybe you are going to get fired. You're not going to know that until you're off the top of the mountain. Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts, questions, concerns? Okay. Excellent group, guys. Remember, we will be back here next Thursday, 12 noon Central Standard Time. You are welcome. In the chat, you're welcome. Happy to be here. Happy to do it. Anybody that wants to watch and listen and learn and comment, you're welcome to do so live. I will be doing this pro bono for as long as I can show up on Thursdays. And hopefully, if for whatever reason I have to miss, I'll get a substitute. But we'll hopefully make it through the whole book. It takes like 6 months. So, but that's in a group format where other people are talking and we're talking about homework and doing, back and forth. So just straight lecture like this, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm happy to be here. So I guess that's it for today. Use your distress tolerant skills if you get into the snow cap, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody.